interesting times. Today's stories. UN Syria envoy meets foreign ministers from Russia, Turkey, and Iran. Putin says he is open to third nations joining nuclear treaty. Serbian President Vučić addresses the UN after Kosovo army vote. Ex-FBI Director Comey rips into Republicans over what he says are President Trump's lies. Plus, Guerrero showings in Japan cities delight moviegoers. Hello everyone, I am Jennifer Palantan, bringing you stories from around the globe, and this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. The outgoing UN envoy for Syria meets with Iran's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mohammad Javad Zarif, Russia's Sergei Lavrov, and Turkey's Mevlut Cavusoglu, in a final bid to make headway towards a new Syrian constitution. The talks in Geneva will likely be one of Staffan de Misture's last meetings with major players in the Syrian conflict, as the veteran UN diplomat is due to step down in the coming days. The planned Constitutional Committee was agreed at a Russia-hosted conference in January. The centerpiece of UN peace efforts in Syria, the committee would be tasked with negotiating a new post-war constitution that would pave the way to elections aimed at turning the page on 7 years of devastating war. But it has run into objections from the Syrian government. The opposition has pushed for an entirely new constitution, but Damascus has said it will only discuss altering the current one. In October, Damascus rejected a list presented by de Mistura of 50 civil society representatives and technical experts. Russian President Vladimir Putin suggested Tuesday he was open to the idea of other countries joining a key Cold War treaty limiting mid-range nuclear arms or to starting talks on a new agreement. The president spoke after Washington this month said it would withdraw from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, or the INF, after 60 days if Russia did not dismantle missiles that the U.S. claims breached the deal. At a defense ministry meeting, Putin repeated accusations that Washington had itself violated the bilateral treaty and suggested other countries join the U.S.-Russia agreement in a bid to salvage it. Signed in 1987 by U.S. President Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev, the treaty puts no restrictions on other major military actors like China.
Да, действительно, с этим договором есть определенные сложности. В нем не участвуют другие страны, обладающие ракетами средней и меньшей дальности. Но что мешает начать переговоры об их присоединении к действующему соглашению? Или приступить к обсуждению параметров нового договора.
He reiterated the threat that Russia would have to retaliate if the United States ditched the treaty.
Подчеркну, какими бы ни были претензии к договору, в современных условиях он выполняет роль стабилизирующего фактора, работает на поддержание определенного уровня предсказуемости и сдержанности в военной сфере.
И, как вы понимаете, если у нас воздушного и морского базирования такие системы есть, ну, наверное, большого труда не составит провести соответствующие неокры и поставить их на землю, если потребуется. Вот.
This month, Putin said about a dozen countries were probably producing mid-range missiles of the type banned by the INF Treaty. Up next, Serbian President Vučić addresses the UN after Kosovo army vote. Ex-FBI Director Comey rips into Republicans over what he says are President Trump's lies. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return in a moment.
Hi guys, I'm Ariel.
And I'm Kenneth. And we're your new hosts for The Break Room.
So please watch us every Monday at 7:30 to 8 in the evening. We are one with 25.
News, Linggo, alas 4 hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eager news, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić says Kosovo's decision to build an army is a very bad interpretation done by some countries because it is in their own political interest, questioning Pristina's decision that it is their sovereign right. Addressing the Security Council, Vučić also calls on the UN to take a bigger role in mediating talks between Serbia and Kosovo.
Serbia is always ready to resume the process of dialogue. We would like to call upon UN to take a bigger role in the future. We have nothing against EU sponsor dialogue, but we need UN more involved into an entire process. But we beg all of you, it's my biggest plea tonight. Just someone has to curb, someone has to tame those people, because measures that they have taken recently, it's something that is not coherent with the 21st century. From which document, and that's my open question for all of you, they derive their so-called sovereign right to form their own military? Where is that written? In which document? It's not even written in that form in their own constitution. From which document, from which article, paragraph, rule they derive that right? Where is that written? And I can tell you in advance, nowhere. It's just an interpretation, a very bad interpretation done by some countries because it's their own political interests.
Kosovo's president said the country's decision to build an army was irreversible before heading to a UN Security Council meeting on Monday about the move, which has drawn the ire of former war foe Serbia. The Kosovo's parliament's Friday vote to transform a lightly armed emergency force into a standing army was carried out with strong support from the United States, which hailed the move as historic. But the decision has angered Belgrade and its key ally, Russia, who both refused to recognize the independence of former Serbian province. Before traveling to New York late Sunday, Kosovo's president, Hashim Thaçi, told reporters that regardless of upcoming decisions, the Kosovo army is an irreversible process. Since breaking away from Serbia in 1998 and 1999 guerrilla war, Kosovo's security has been protected by international peacekeeping troops. Belgrade insists that the army violates a UN resolution that ended the war. Serbia's Foreign Minister, Ivica Dačić, said Sunday that it was important that the voice of Serbia and condemnation of Pristina's activities be heard. Earlier, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić lashed out at Kosovo for crossing the line with the army move, while also blaming the U.S. and other Western countries who lent their support. While it takes years for the army to be operational, Belgrade has cast it as a dire threat to a minority Serb population still living in Kosovo. NATO and the European Union also criticized the vote as hasty and lacking the consent of Serbs, whose MPs boycotted the parliamentary session on the issue.
Their so-called sovereign right.
Kosovo's independence, declared in 2008, has been recognized by more than 100 countries, but it remains shut down from the UN, with Serbia's Russian and Chinese allies ready to veto any membership bid. Former FBI Director James Comey rips into President Trump and his Republican allies, arguing that attacks on the FBI make no sense.
So another day of Hillary Clinton's emails and the Steele dossier. This while the President of the United States is lying about the FBI, attacking the FBI, and attacking the rule of law in this country. How does that make any sense at all? Republicans used to understand that the actions of a president matter, the words of a president matter, the rule of law matters, and the truth matters. Where are those Republicans today? At some point, someone has to stand up and in the face of fear of Fox News, fear of their base, fear of mean tweets, stand up for the values of this country and not slink away into retirement, but stand up and speak the truth.
U.S. President Donald Trump hit out at former FBI Director James Comey on Sunday, accusing him of lying to Congress in testimony last week over his handling of the Russia probe. He said, quote, "Leaking James Comey must have set a record for who lied the most to Congress in one day. His Friday testimony was so untruthful. This whole deal is a rigged fraud, headed up by dishonest people who would do anything so that I cannot become president. They are now exposed." Trump's attack on Comey's credibility comes as he himself is under intensifying pressure from federal investigators. In a court filing Friday, federal prosecutors in New York tied the president to felony campaign violations in the form of hush payments to two women who alleged past sexual encounters with the then Republican presidential candidate. Comey testified the same day before two House committees. A transcript released Saturday shows he strongly defended his investigators against Republican charges of bias against Trump in favor of Democrat Hillary Clinton during the 2016 presidential election. Comey revealed that the initial counterintelligence investigation into Russia election meddling was opened on 4 individuals, but not Trump, to see if any of them were conspiring with the Russians to sway the elections. Comey did not identify the 4 and declined to answer other questions that went into matters under investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller and other federal prosecutors. But in his tweets, Trump portrayed Comey's testimony as dishonest and evasive, enumerating the times he told House investigators he didn't know or couldn't recall things he was asked about. Trump and his Republican allies in Congress have often accused Comey of shielding Clinton from prosecution in a probe of her use of a private email server while Secretary of State, and while using a dossier on Russia election meddling compiled by Steele, a former British spy, to go after Trump's campaign. Peter Strzok, a key investigator in both Comey-directed probes, was fired earlier this year for sending text messages critical of Trump to an FBI lawyer he was having an affair with. In his testimony Friday, Comey strongly defended Strzok against the charges of bias, the transcript shows. Comey said Strzok was one of the handful of people in the entire world who knew we were investigating 4 Americans who had some connection to Mr. Trump during the summer of 2016, and he didn't tell a soul. He said, "So it's hard to reconcile that with his being on Team Clinton. It's hard to reconcile his not leaking that Trump associates were under investigation and his drafting of a letter to Congress on October 28th that Secretary Clinton believed hurt her chances of being elected." Guerrilla showings in Japan cities delight moviegoers. That's next. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return shortly.
Here right now at Spanish Banks, one of Vancouver's popular beaches, where you get a great view of the Vancouver skyline and the North Shore Mountains. Make sure you tune into Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday. I am Lou Aquino, your EBC Canada correspondent, and I'm 1 with 25.
Hello Digital Nesters, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to watch our future features.
News and Music. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, 1:00 hanggang 2:00 ng hapon.
This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C., and I am Jennifer Palantan. International showings of the EBC film Guerrero continues. This time, let's check in with our Japan bureaus as they witness several screenings of this new film by award-winning director Carlo Ortega Cuevas. Take a look.
Happy, excited, and full of anticipation, these are the expressions you will see from this group of people lining up for a movie screening. A Filipino film that has already traveled to various countries worldwide has made its way in the land of the rising sun, Guerrero. The movie from the director of Walang Take Two has premiered in Japan. Various Filipinos, Japanese, as well as other nationalities here in the country were gathered at 4 various areas all over Japan for the movie premiere. Tokyo, Hamamatsu, Tochigi, and Okinawa. Packed with humorous lines, heart-wrenching scenes, and even an unpredictable and hanging ending, the movie has cultivated various positive reactions from viewers with never any moment of boredom.
Hindi ba sabi niyo gutom na kayo?
And when we ask them what they can say about the film they've seen,
very, very interesting. Sobrang ganda po ng movie.
とても感動しました。
Sobrang saya po.
思いっきり泣いて思いっきり泣ける映画でとても良かったです。
Maganda po! Maganda! Napakasaya! Masaya! Nakakaiyak! Nakakatawa! Ang lakas ng tawa ko!
now let's check out what happened in Hamamatsu. Here's Aimiko Miwa.
Hi, I am Aimiko Miwa here in Hamamatsu Fukushi Koryu Center in Hamamatsu City, where the movie screening of Guerrero is happening. A great number of movie viewers all over Shizuoka Prefecture came together with their friends to witness the movie Guerrero. Right here in Hamamatsu City, Shizuoka. This is Aimiko Miwa for Eagle News. Back to you there in Tokyo, Taira.
Let's fly over to Okinawa in the southern part of Japan and let's see what's happening in the movie premiere of Guerrero. Here's Mary Jane Kinjo.
Good evening everyone, this is Jane Kinjo. We are here at the Okinawa Sangyo Koryu Center for the movie screenings of the EBC films Guerrero. It's drizzling outside and it's a little chilly, but you can feel the warm reception of the people who are supporting this event.
And what makes the movie great is the values and lessons it teaches the viewers, and Guerrero never runs out of these.
Madami pong mapupulot na aral.
Ano man yung dumating mga pagsubok sa buhay, lalo tayong manalig sa Panginoong Diyos.
Through Guerrero, a movie from Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, Filipino movie writer and director Carlo J. Cuevas portrays the lives, ups and downs of a typical Filipino boxer that gives utmost inspiration and happiness to both the Japanese and Filipinos in Japan who are always occupied with work, family, and other stress-causing concerns.
Tunay na nagbigay ng inspirasyon sa mga nakasaksi, sa mga nakapanood. Hindi lamang po mga Pilipino, ang totoo kahit ang mga naritong Hapones. Ito po ay nagbigay sa kanila ng kasiyahan kahit po sa ilang oras na kahit na sa kanilang pamumuhay dito, alam naman po natin meron din kalungkutan at talagang sila ay pagod sa mga paghahanap buhay. Tunay na nagbibigay ng inspirasyon sa mga makakapanood, sa mga nakapanood po ngayon, nakalimutan nila kanilang mga alalahanin sa buhay, kanilang mga problema. masaya na napanood po nila at hindi lamang po basta sila nasiyahan, hindi lamang sa karoon ng kaaliwan ng kanilang puso. Ito po ay nagbunga ng lalo nilang inspirasyon sa pagharap sa buhay. Sa buhay na ito, ang lalong mahalaga ay ang pagtitiwala sa Diyos. Ano man ang dumating na suliranin, bumagsak man, babangon. Pero ang pagbangon natin ay nasa tulong at awa ng ating Panginoon Diyos.
Panoorin niyo po itong Guerrero kasi napakaganda pong movie na to. Nakaka-inspire po sa buhay natin.
Yung mga hindi pa po nakakapanood, manood po kayo. Sobrang ganda po. Andun na po lahat yung comedy, tapos yung pagbanding, pagmamahal ng magkapatid, tsaka sa family po. Kaya manood po kayo. Sobrang ganda po.
Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this is Tyronel Pililu for Eagle News International. And I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Japan Bureaus. Guerrero showings are happening around the world and here in the United States. Several are scheduled in the coming weeks. Stay tuned for updates on those showings. That is today's Eagle News Washington, D.C. Join us again tomorrow as we bring stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at Eagle News PH and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Jennifer Palantan, and I am 1 with 25.